Welcome to Talking New York Real Estate with Vince Rocco. Our show is all about the exciting world of real estate and in particular, how it relates to the luxury New York marketplace. But if you are not planning a real estate transaction in New York, we still have plenty of information you can use no matter where you are. Now, here's our show. Hello everyone, I'm Vince Rocco in New York, so let's get right to what everyone is talking about. Today on the show, summer in New York City. Well, all year in New York City brings a unique energy to real estate market. The longer days and warmer weather fuel an uptick in showings, open houses, and buyer activity, especially among families trying to settle in before the new school year. While inventory remains tight, pricing is holding steady in prime neighborhoods, with well-renovated or turnkey properties commanding stronger interest. On the rental side, competition intensifies with bidding wars not uncommon for desirable apartments. What's trending now? Well, outdoor space is still a major draw, especially terraces and rooftops, and there's growing interest in flexible layouts that accommodate work from home. New developments are leaning into lifestyle, offering wellness amenities, community programming, and smart home integration as buyers prioritize comfort and convenience more than ever. And at the table with me today are Jessica Cohen from Brown Harris Stevens and Daniel Blattman from Compass, and they join me now to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate. So let's go behind the headlines and inside real estate, the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back, and we're talking today about the markets here in New York City. And I say markets plural because everybody thinks the market is the market. We have many different markets depending on borough, depending on street within borough, neighborhoods, etc. We're going to talk a little bit about the summer market and how things may have changed this summer. But overall, we're going to talk about what we've seen so far the first 6 months of this year, from January to June. Yes, it is June. And Daniel, I want to start with you because you've been here before, and we've talked about this, many, many times. From your observation, from your impression, you're a very successful agent in town, as is Jessica. You're running around. We talked about it, before we got on the air. What is your impression right now overall of what the market is like from, say, the start of the year to where we are today in June of 2025?
The overall just boots on the ground aspect from every single borough and every neighborhood is that our market is booming. We are on fire for the most part. The most challenging thing that we have is guiding buyers to not miss opportunities and guiding sellers to present their home in a way that a buyer is going to immediately see it and say, wow, I feel excited to live here. I can immediately imagine myself living here. If the sellers actually take control and do that and listen to their agents, they sell. If they don't, they sit and then they complain that the market is terrible.
Well, I agree with you, and I hear that, and I have a few sellers right now who are not listening. So explain to our audience and our listeners, what it is that they actually need to do to get more activity in the marketplace. I mean, first thing that comes to mind with everybody is lower the price. How realistic is that?
Price is a big aspect, and we have to understand that price is not about actual worth of the home. The asking price is a marketing tool and positioning in the market against the comparable set of options. So a lot of people will buy. It is a race to be the prettiest, and the least expensive moves the fastest. So all of these things have to make sense, and you really need to understand the unique attributes of that specific property. Because if it is a dark home and you have linen white paint, which means it is yellow when it is dark inside of the apartment, that means it's a rental property and it feels really old and probably has mothballs hidden somewhere in the oven. We're not sure, but that's the way that the buyer will actually look at it. And the buyers, based off of what the job market, the social market, and just overall economics, in New York City, and then how we've seen crypto and the stock market yo-yo nonstop, everybody is burnt out. Everybody does not understand how to read their own emotions. They do not understand how to make a choice when it actually requires making a decision and weighing options and balancing them between things. So the easier that a seller can make that for somebody so that it is more multiple choice and says this is a clear winner, then a buyer can actually then make a choice. So the seller really needs to do that. That can mean staging. It could be mirrors. It can mean painting. It can mean following trends. And I'll just say, finish with, because buyers and sellers, everybody has been looking at Pinterest. We've been looking at Instagram. We have been looking at everything that is so filtered, except for somebody like Mel Robbins. Like everything else is so filtered and packaged that if your home is not filtered and packaged, then it's going to sit.
A therapy session for buyers. And I sort of agree with what Daniel was saying. I have maintained for years that, and when I teach school, I say this all the time to the students. You know, you've heard this before, but buyers don't really want to buy. Okay, they really don't want to buy. They have to buy. They need to buy. They should buy. The brother and the sister, the uncle, the aunt tell them you got to buy something, but they really don't want to buy. So to his point, unless it is perfect.
Every objection possible.
Every objection possible.
Everything.
So Jessica, from your perspective, he calls it a booming market this year so far. That's one thing that I may not agree with. 100%. I see a lot more activity, but we'll talk about the actual activity versus pulling the trigger. From your perspective, what are you seeing?
Depends how you define a booming market.
Right.
Wouldn't have been my choice of words, but I love hearing it. Of course, I want it to be a booming market. I feel it's touch
booming
and go.
compared to what was going on last year, though, for sure.
So
And the year before.
Yeah.
And the year before.
Okay. Jessica.
Okay, so we hit the market this year with a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. 2025 was going to be the final release of all the product that was being held back. Little by little, we did kick off, and it felt like so when I think of a booming market, I think of sellers having control. I feel like it's a seller's market is a booming market to me is sellers are holding the cards, you know, and the buyers are bidding, and there's bidding wars, and it's chaos, and you know.
I love those markets.
Yeah, good and bad, right? So, but then I feel like the tariff announcements did cause a recoil.
Oy vey.
Oy vey, yeah. I happen to have switched firms, right?
You're
around.
here.
I went
Yay.
from Elliman to Brown Harris.
Yes, you did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
didn't know
Thank
that?
you.
No, I'm not literate.
No, it's all good.
That's great.
She's one of our own.
Very excited.
Yeah. But I did that, and I had about 2 weeks of just unabashed fun with putting things in the bucket, and then the tariff announcement, right? So everybody panicked. Stock values tanked. People wondered what was going on in the world, if everything's gonna be okay. Waited a minute. And then a few minutes later said, this isn't resolving right away. It was kind of like COVID. I thought COVID was gonna be like 2 weeks, and then we would just go on with our lives, and it continued for years, right? So I feel like there's been an adjustment with buyers. It's incorporated some uncertainty, and I think that we have to be even better. To your point, it has to be staged perfectly and a great price. I think prior to which either one would have done. A great property or a great, like perfect in every way or really well priced. Now it has to be both.
I agree with that.
It's a challenge
He's
because
used the word pretty, and
pretty.
You know, it's got to show well.
Yeah.
It really does.
Really pretty.
Yeah.
And
No renovations. People don't want to do renovations right now
do
because
not
the
at all.
prices are higher. Renovations are even more expensive based on whatever else is going on in the economy in the world. So people want to find that turnkey, very pretty, very well priced and well-looking property, and then they'll do it.
even the most turnkey apartments, if you don't hit the right number
Yep.
for attracting people, are sitting
Correct.
and are cold.
Correct.
And there's a psychology between, you know, where the sellers remember when they bought these properties that they had to come up. They relate as a seller to having been a buyer 10 years ago, 7 years ago, when the market was totally different. Right now, the name of the game, I think, is bringing the price to where the buyers can't resist. And then you maybe get more than one buyer at a time, like everybody's looking at you. So instead of thinking of leaving wiggle room, I've been trying to tell my sellers, let's get to where we don't have much wiggle room, you know, and then we see, you know, what's out there, because they're wanting to leave all this wiggle room, and you're not moving, or you're getting traffic, but you're not getting decisions. Nobody's pulling the trigger. So like you said, it has to be irresistible.
Well, that's what I was saying before. You know, booming has a lot of different meanings to, you know, to the word. I'm seeing a lot of activity in the listings that I have, whatever. But to get people to actually sit back, sit down, and pull that trigger and say, yeah, at whatever the price point, okay, and pull that trigger, it's almost, you know, you can feel the hesitation in just looking at them and talking to them. Is it the interest rates that still have not moved from high 6s and 7? Is it the tariffs? Is it the overall, you know, economy? Is it everything else in the country that is happening? I'm not quite sure I can put my finger on exactly what
I can.
the hesitation is.
I can put my finger on one thing.
Tell me.
Okay, so I think people have job insecurity right now that we're not really talking about.
Well, that's very important.
There are going to be layoffs in bulk because of the tariff. So, you know, I don't care if my bananas go up in price, I'll live, right? But if I lose my job, I'm going to regret that I just bought this apartment, and I have payments to make, and I have no, you know, there's no flexibility there. I'm committed.
Yeah.
People are afraid to make commitments when they, you know, they need to mind their cash flow, right? So I think that maybe this timing we're going to see after these tariffs set in, that people feel secure about where they're at, and they'll be able to make decisions more fluidly than they've been able to currently. But I think that's a big part of it.
All right, we are at the start of the summer season, okay. Let me ask you, so is this the right time, rather, to list? Or is it better, you know, gone are the days when I first started in this business 23 years ago, we used to literally tell people, no, this is not the time to list. Let's wait till September. Let's wait till after Labor Day. You get so much more business, so much more traffic, whatever. And our sellers used to listen to us. That ended 10 years ago, maybe even more, where it's like, my opinion, you want to list? This is the time to do it. What do you say?
So
at the start of, you know, the summer season, when typically, you know, years past, it was slow, dead.
Yeah. So I've only been in business for 12 years, and we've never had a normal market, ever. So, and everybody thought, oh, the market was easy. But when I was coming up from 2013 through 2017, it was impossible to get deals done because everything was selling above ask. It was really hard to beat another buyer. It was hard to do everything. Now, then the market was challenging. Like then in 2018, we lost foreign buyers. We had the tax plan change. Our market tanked, so nobody was buying luxury. Then we had a massive increase. Then we had COVID. And then we're like, all right, now we got to figure this out. Now, what we are seeing for the and this is resetting what our cycle is today, which is why I've gone through that diorama. What we're seeing is that, and this would be the third cycle, and this is my theory. I haven't heard anybody really go through this. So if you haven't spoken to me, you heard it here first. This is the third market cycle that will repeat these exact trends. So 4.5 years after a traumatic event for New York City, 2001, 2008, 2020. 4.5 years after that is when we start the next boom market for New York. That is when everybody that has left New York, everybody that has gone through their PTSD, they've gone through everything else. They've traveled, they've settled, they've started new relationships, they've started families, they've started other things. Plus, you've had 4.5 years of job growth, allegedly. So during that time, people are now coming back to the city. They are saying, I do not want to commute for an hour and a half each way, coming in from Great Neck or coming in from New Jersey, coming in from Westchester. They're tired of it because that's not the essence of who a New Yorker is. We want everything when we want it right now, which was actually 5 minutes ago. Why am I waiting in line? And this food is cold. Why did I just spend for 2 Michelin stars when this 1 Michelin star was great? So all of this is the essence of a New Yorker. And everybody right now, and this started when Jamie Dimon announced that New Yorkers are back, or everybody is back in JP Morgan 5 days a week. Anybody that lives in New York already knew that 80% of JP Morgan was already in the office 5 days a week. But that announcement was a signal to the marketplace that all firms were coming back to the office 5 days a week. From that specific announcement, I saw an influx of buyers across all my listings, across every single phone call of all of the buyers that I work with in every single neighborhood in the city, looking to get informed, looking to say, oh, I want to move in from Williamsburg into Flatiron because I'm going to be going to the office every day and I don't want to take the L to transfer. It's too long of a commute for me. So that changed our entire market dynamic. And I've only seen that increase. So if somebody is considering listing, the buyers, they're going to go to the Hamptons, but our inventory is so low still that when a good property comes up and it is well-positioned price-wise in the market, and it is well-positioned decoration-wise, so that somebody can immediately walk in and imagine living there, they will not find another apartment. They're going to come back to the city from wherever they are and buy that property because everybody has been looking or couch surfing, chasing StreetEasy, Zillow, all the brokerage websites for years waiting for that one property, which is why today, now is a phenomenal time to list.
Jessica, so, along those lines and speaking about is this a proper time to list at the top of summer, given the fact that inventory, has been low in this town for a very long time. Not enough property, not enough apartments to show our buyers. What are your thoughts on all of that? Good time to list? And how is that really going to change, or is it going to change the inventory? Will it increase the inventory? Is this the time of the year will increase or not?
So I agree with you, but a little tweak to what you've said. I would wait a month and a half. I think that for the next several weeks, things are going to slow down, right? If I was going to list something, I would love to wait until things really slow down and then be the one that bucks the trend. So while everybody pulls their inventory off the market, you're new. I did it once. I thought I had these people, they wanted to go on, it was years ago. It was before you were in real estate. I think it was like 2011. And it was mid-August. And I said to this couple, should we wait till after Labor Day or should we hit the markets like August 15th, And I said, well, what if we try this now and see what happens? We got a crazy bidding war. And we priced it full. But you know what? People were ready. They were waiting for something to come on. It was the only game in town, right? So there are ways to do something different and maybe stand out, that stands out. And people who want to buy, they have less choices. All the brokers are, holding off, waiting. You can do it then.
What's interesting to me, and I've said this before on this program many times, you would think that, and I think the impression is that because we're in New York City, there are so many more apartments, there are so many apartments in general that would be available, would be on the market would be hotter because it is New York, because it's so big and whatever, but yet it's not. You go to the suburbs, 30 minutes up the road where my family comes from, 45 minutes up the road in Westchester County, out in New Jersey on Long Island, the market is booming. The market is booming, to use your word, Daniel. The market is booming.
Define booming.
The properties go on the market, and within a week, they're gone. The amount of people that show up for an open house is astronomical.
Okay. Demand is up.
The demand is incredible. The last year and a half, during what we've considered a very slow market here, I always chalk it up to the fact that things are half price up there. For $600,000, you get a 3 or 4 bedroom, beautiful home or condominium townhouse, whatever. You're going to pay $3 million here in New York. So everything is relative. I get it. But the demand is there outside of New York City. With that, we'll take a break. Everyone is staying right here. We're not going anywhere. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. Don't go anywhere.
The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, so based on the comment I made before, what are your thoughts on that? You know, the outer, even the outer boroughs,
Yeah.
and the suburbs seem to be in much more demand than New York City proper, Manhattan proper.
Well, you have to understand what's
And there's more money
changed.
here, okay?
There's so much money in New York.
Right.
And you have to look at what is really going on. And people will move to the suburbs. And the people that I know, unfortunately, and I've known a few people now in the MD and on the partner track that have been phased out, who have now also gotten very higher paying jobs.
Right.
But my friends in tech that have lost their jobs are the only people that have left New York City.
Right.
And now they live in Austin, Texas, and they're like, well, I don't have a job here. And they were higher up in Meta or any other firm. And they're like, well, we're looking for jobs. And the only jobs, everything, even if it says that it is remote, is still in the office 1 day a week, but now they have kids. And all the jobs are in San Francisco and New York City. Not Miami, not Austin. They're in San Francisco and New York City. So when you look at that, those people that have all left now have to come back. And they might not have been New York City people. So they're going to move to the suburbs. And they can easily do that and still do the commute. Then you have everybody else who has lived in New York City, and rents are going at 10 to 15% above what they ever possibly should be worth. And there are bidding wars. So you can't even assess what the real value of the rental market is. Like I rented something for one of my clients. I sold him a townhouse. So 2-family, they live in a triplex. I rented out the garden, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and I made them put in a washer dryer. I rented that for $5,000. We just put it on for $5,000, and I got $5,750. Nobody will see that it went for $5,750.
I was going to say
15% over.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say 5,000 seems like a little low. But
Right.
Okay.
But I looked at the comps. I was like, maybe 57 could happen, but those are a lot better than us. But like I could really see 5 to 52. And I called those other brokers, and they're like, the apartments were still on the market. We put it up, and we had multiple offers, and everybody came in at the same price.
Let's talk about the comps for a second, because I think that's a very interesting point. Like, I bring it back to sales for a second also, but on your $5,000 a month comp, how many apartments are you listing that you're struggling to find comps because the transactions have been down?
Yeah.
So you're trying to find the right
Very
comp
good
of
point.
how to price
Very good
something. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to take the most similar comp and I'm going to adjust because there's something that doesn't fit.
Yep.
Right? So making the adjustment, I mean, it's subjective, right? And you're playing with making a decision about how much to adjust up or down based on how you relate to that last comp. What do you do?
Depending on what it is and what's different, I have to look at what are the proportions. And what I've noticed is that people have a very strong aversion to tight spaces. And when you have to look at what the individual characteristics of that property are, and this is beyond price, this is beyond what the monthly carrying costs and how that compares, because that is a big thing. If you are $600,000 or $600 more per month versus the comps, that's $100,000 of mortgage. So we have to also find that balance, because that goes into the cost, unless the unit has higher ceilings, has wider room proportions. Does the bathroom have 2 sinks in the primary bedroom? Because couples fight in kitchens and they fight in bathrooms. So when you...
I want to see his life.
Okay.
I
Give
grew
us
up-
some more information. You're right.
Yeah. Let's bring your partner on.
I actually kind of agree with that, though. I think you're right, because that's where you spend more of your time, right?
Well, those are the big cross sections that when 2 people are getting ready at the same time,
right.
Out of
you're
my
in the bathroom and you're in the kitchen.
Do not touch
and that's
my
it. Otherwise, like you see a Great Dane, they need 2 long runs a day. Otherwise, they're going to lay on the couch. Humans, relatively similar.
Yeah. Well, listen. So on that score,
You got to get people running.
correct. What Jessica? What are people looking for? Buyers, when you first start buying for, and it doesn't matter the price point, but what are buyers looking for in a market today? That we've been experiencing for a while, and maybe a little better, maybe not this year. But what are they actually looking for, or what's going to be the impetus for them to say, "Okay, I found it. I like it, I'm going to pull the trigger. Daniel used the word pretty before. It's got to show well. It's got to look good. But what are the characteristics of an apartment that people are really looking for? He also just mentioned tight spaces. I don't think anybody likes tight spaces, but this is New York City, so you don't really get the abundance of space. But I get his point. What are they looking for?
You need to feel like you won right now.
Correct.
You need to win.
Yeah.
Like, if you are out there buying and you are reading the papers, looking at the media, and feeling like the market is yours, you need to feel like you got a deal. So you can't just get a deal like, oh, it was a little better. Like,
right.
And what a deal is to somebody is different, right? Like getting 5% under what it should be, 15%, like it's different to different people. Some people just want to, feel like they got one over on the seller, and it can also be an offensive thing on the sell side when you're the broker receiving some crazy, but then you see these people, they start where they are and then they come up. They may come up really close to that ask. So I tell my sellers, don't feel bad that they just tried that. Let's counter. Let's give a response.
Always
Let's
counter.
play this because you can get to a deal that you're happy with. Doesn't matter what they start with.
I think most buyers wouldn't know what's a good deal if it smacked them in the face.
I think I agree with you. And back to what Jessica said, I think it's more like they want to feel like they're winning. So they don't really know what a good deal is. They don't really know what a good price is. They just want to feel like if you're asking, $500,000, I want to give you $475 because that makes them feel like they won, that situation. I
It's
get
unbelievable.
it. It's unbelievable.
That's because CNN came out and said that everything in Austin, Texas is selling 20% below the ask. So naturally, that same thing is happening in New York City for this one particular apartment.
Yeah.
Versus there are three different ways that we should look at pricing when you're approaching a property as a buyer. There is, what is it asking? What's it worth? And then what are you willing to pay for it based off of the unique circumstances of how that property fits into your life? Because if it's renovated and you hate the renovation,
well,
because
there's that too, yeah.
not all renovations are tasteful. And I know, right? So if you're going to look at something and the seller's trying to make you pay a renovated price, but you're going to renovate it, you can't pay a renovated price because then you're going to be underwater and you're going to have to do something. So you have to analyze, where does it actually stack in the market? Like, I'm selling something right now. We're actually asking a deal. Nobody's making an offer. If they came in, the asking price is already a deal. If you want blood, that is the place for blood.
I know.
I've seen other properties sell.
Why don't you think that you're getting offers on that
Because it actually has, people want to walk in and immediately feel that that's their home. And it's in that $1 million 1-bedroom price point where the buyers are all like, they don't have the bandwidth to make a decision. Their brokers usually do not know how to educate them. And their brokers are only looking to get a deal because they don't do enough deals.
Amen.
So they just want easy and they want to get paid. So our job is to guide and to educate and hope that they do not lose an opportunity. So most people will walk in and be like, oh my God, this is great. But, I need to immediately feel walking in and loving this. It has gray walls. It has a dark brown kitchen. And it has a dark brown white oak wood solid floor. The bathroom's renovated. The kitchen has a great layout. And it has a washer dryer. If you put $15,000 into it to sand and stain the floors, make it natural white oak, paint the kitchen white or replace the doors, and paint, then that's it.
What stops your seller from doing it?
I've been pushing on that for a while, but they're like, we don't want to spend the money. We don't believe that that's going to be it. I'm like, well, you have two options. You either drop it from $1 million or you drop it to the price where a buyer's going to say, all right, it's worth it for me to do a renovation, which is $900,000. So somewhere in that middle ground, if a buyer gets it at $900,000, they put 20 grand into it. You just made $100,000 worth of equity, and I can show that to you all day long. But you get it at $950, it's still a killer deal. We can get something done.
But to her point before, the buyer wants to feel like you're not getting offers. My opinion, the buyer wants to feel like they're getting something, they're winning something. Seller's like, not yet. I don't think that's going to happen. I put X amount of dollars into it. I really don't want to reduce it. How do we, because people ask me this all the time, buyers and sellers, how do we get over that hump, Jessica? How do we get them, the buyer, to understand?
Yeah, I got to see this.
Yeah, she's got. How do we get them to understand?
Getting foggy here.
That, okay, this is a good price.
It's really, 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 really hard.
Yeah.
Because I have the same situation with other sellers. I relate to where you're coming from. The seller says, the buyer can do this. Why don't they get that this is a great deal? And no matter how you try to convince them to make some basic, that's why I threw that out. You're like, why don't you tell them to do, they don't want to do it. I think that part of the problem is the buyers are unsure who to trust on who to listen to. So the buyer needs to be educated, but not by us because we're the listing agent, right? If that's the case.
No, he said buyer agent, I think, needs to.
The buyer agent needs to, but I'm saying you're on the listing side, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're on the listing side and you're trying to convince, they're not going to listen to us. So the buyer's agent needs to really prepare them for finding a deal around these details, explaining how refinishing this floor, maybe it's less than $10,000, right? It's something that size will be less than $10,000. But you need a buyer's agent that's really, really skilled to be able to talk them through these points and explain why they can be in this apartment in a matter of weeks. There's no filings. It's all cosmetic. Mm-hmm. And they're going to save a lot of money, right? But it's brutal. It's brutal.
And that buyer's agent's like, oh, well, but this other one's already going to take your offer, so we might as well just do that, and then they don't have to do any extra work.
This brings me to my next question. So it's so funny because
nobody wants to talk about the summer market, Vince.
No, I know.
I hope you're not bringing that back.
No. No,
talk about anything else.
But the thing is, when you're talking about turnkey or renovated homes, are you seeing more competition in buyers wanting those type of homes versus value add, as Daniel said before?
They don't want value add.
Well,
they say that they want value add, but they can't handle value add.
They can't handle the value add.
They can't handle the value add. Okay, so they want that aesthetically beautiful looking apartment, and I say, to the seller,
but they want it for a bargain.
Dark brown to white.
It's literally doing that. And you don't have to make it nice. They don't know the difference. Yeah. Like, think about it. You don't know the difference between somebody with red flags and somebody that doesn't if they smile.
No. Right.
So you just gotta...
Oh, man.
That's kind of dark.
My head's going down now.
So
the glasses didn't go on yet.
I run toward the red flags.
Right. So when you really look at that, I've seen things where the kitchen is 50 years old and they've literally painted it white. And the buyer walks in and like, oh my God, I love the renovation.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I know.
I want to... I'm sorry, guys. Did you see what we just saw? The kitchen's green, but it's solid wood. You can paint it. Yes. It's really good quality. It's awesome. This is all you have to do. And they're like,
they've never done it before.
This one's pretty.
Yeah. They don't know.
And
they don't know.
Right. And
staging. Let's talk about staging.
Let's do it.
Right? I mean, I have such challenges sometimes with getting people to stage.
But sometimes it can be done all wrong.
I'm ready to start a staging company. I want to go in and fix them. I want to fix all of these apartments and make them pretty.
Yep.
But, nobody wants to pay, right? So what do you do?
Staging is a ridiculous cost. And the pricing is one of those things, like it is so high. You stage something outside of New York City, $3,000 to $10,000.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
No wonder they're flying.
You stay, like the ways that
they are, and that's
but also reasons. Outside of New York City, somebody has to get over. Like, not only do buyers agents have unwarranted egos, we all need to work together. There's a lot of times that I'll ask a seller's agent, like, if you're priced at this way, do you have comps? Do you have something? Because I don't I don't care. Just give me the story. Because if you're seeing things that I'm not, that actually came up with this, yes. I'll take it to my person. I'll just lay out, this is the story. Because the comps are the story. And you cannot defeat logic. You just have to.
You cannot,
but people do.
There are ways to
you have to create a logical trail that somebody can follow. I always compare it to the bouncing ball on a Disney sing-along. If you can do that, and then, all right, it makes sense. We get to the end, everybody claps, everybody's happy, they say, hooray. Same thing as a Disney sing-along. So, but what you can't do in New York, what people have to come to terms with that you can do in the suburbs, is you cannot make bigger windows. You cannot add another bathroom. You cannot expand the apartment. You cannot do all of these other little things that you can do in the suburbs. Mm-hmm. So just the overall concept of what it takes to actually sell something where you're like, oh, but if you don't like it, you can do this. And in New York, you're like, well, if you don't like it, you're kind of stuck with it. So learn how to refine your own life and then learn how to do things a little different. So it's a different form of a buyer needing to make a choice, saying, I'm ready for permanence. I'm ready for stability. I'm ready for that time in my life when no landlord can increase my rent and I have to succumb and gaslight myself to saying, yes, I will pay this price, because you have to move and you don't know where to move because there's no rental inventory. And then you got to move to Astoria, which, can they just make a TV show that's fun about Astoria? Because then it's easier to pitch Astoria.
Real Housewives of Astoria.
That would be
Well,
great.
there you go. I was going to say, no more real estate shows. Anyway, let me move on to, I said at the top of the show that people are still thinking about in their searches that they want to have a home office or work from home. Daniel indicated before that, it's been publicly stated by some high-level executives at companies, hey, the back-to-work mandate is here. You got to go back to the office, blah, blah, blah. But there are still people who I believe have become very lazy since the COVID
Comfortable
since the
not
COVID
lazy.
pandemic, including real estate agents who want to work from home more than
We always had that.
we always had that, but I think it's a little more so
I
than
know,
ever.
they don't make any money, so it works out.
Correct. But anyway, are people still looking for a work from home environment or not?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have consensus. Tell me why.
Well, I have a new buyer. I've been talking to her for a year. She ended up renting in Jersey, and now is like, all right, I need to buy in the city. And looking at the price was $1 million. Now, I need a home office. All right, great. Well, your price, if you want that in this area, is now 1.3 to 1.4. Okay, I can pay that. So what somebody really wants is always 10 to 15% higher than what they're willing to pay. And this is across all price points.
Brilliant.
I did a $32 million deal. I did a $900,000 deal at similar times. The 32 really wanted the one that was at 35 or 36. The one at 900 really wanted 1.05, maybe 1.1. I know that that's higher than 10 to 15%. And they could afford it. It all makes sense. But they have to make a decision when enough is enough and what they're willing to do. And that is a decision. So you have to be willing to make that choice. And when they're willing to do that, they're very happy with their choice.
Comment? Agree?
I'm just wondering, do you think that all of these the buyers are maybe just bringing up things because they're not ready to buy? Period.
100%.
And they're picking at things. I mean, I agree. Everybody can always look at the market one notch higher in pricing and feel like if only I could have that. But yeah, I mean, I tell my buyers they're beautiful apartments, winners in every price point. Sometimes the 20 million, they're just bigger, right? They're just more square footage. But you can find a little gem of a studio, right? That's just so perfect and beautiful in every way. You don't have to feel like you needed the next higher. It's just floor space,
Exactly.
Beautiful exists in every price point.
Yep.
Exactly.
100%.
All right, we got to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about neighborhoods, what's
I wanna
trending,
say something about,
and so on and so forth. Don't go anywhere. Talking New York Real Estate. We'll be right back.
This podcast is supported by the More Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place. The More Network. With more than 20 podcast and webcast series, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access to top global real estate experts. Subscribe to their YouTube and Apple podcast channels by visiting getmorenetwork.com.
Okay, we are back. You want to make a comment?
Yeah, no, I want to say something about the home offices.
Yes.
I'm finding we need double home offices, like for
Yes.
families and
Yes.
couples
And their dog.
and their dog.
And
needs
their
a home
and their
office.
children.
Please. I
Come
love
on,
it.
their dog needs a home office.
My
You just
kids
cut it
go
into the
to
back
the
of the kitchen
office.
counter.
My
You put him
dog's
in
When
there.
I worked in my
My
home
dogs
office
come
at
to the
home, when my
office.
dog
And it
was
has to
still
be air
alive, she was
conditioned.
always right here on my lap.
My
always.
dogs go to work. They don't work from home.
Isn't
You
that
ask
something?
I have 2 dogs and they come to the office every day.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And half the office, when they need a break, they come over, they visit, they
And
play with the
visit.
puppy,
Of
and they
course do.
leave.
Of course
That's
they do.
nice.
You know?
That's a wonderful
From Ohio.
thing.
We just ties her up to
but
an ice
it's
cream maker
amazing.
and it just keeps going around.
The
No,
thing
but a
about the
double home office,
offices,
to your point, you're right.
the problem, people who work from home, they can't hear, they're trying to make calls and they can't hear their spouse or significant other or somebody else in the household that's also working from home. So they both need a separate room. It's unbelievable. You need bedroom count and home office count.
And home office count. No. I totally agree with that.
I call it a walk-in closet.
Well,
Let's go.
if it works, it works.
If the shoe fits.
A lot of the times I look at rooms and I look at closets and I understand space very well. And I'm 6 feet tall, so I use my wingspan to show room proportions. It's one of those
It's a type of intelligence.
golden rules. Yeah,
he's an
maybe
angel.
mildly on the spectrum. So when it's a family thing, when
It's always genetic.
I was going to say it's genetic. It's
yeah,
okay.
so I'm always looking at the depths of closets because I wish that they put measurements on floor plans for closets because not all closets are actually legitimate closets. And then you got to figure out how deep can a desk be because you can hide a desk in a living room to also use it to break up space. You can do a full wall of built-ins. And if you build the desk out, like let's say 2.5 feet, where you build the closet out 2.5 feet versus 22 inches, then you can actually pull the doors out, close the desk, hide the chair inside of the desk, and then open it up and move the desk back. So there are ways to do that. You could put different headphones in so you don't have to hear your significant other. Most relationships would probably be better if they did that minus like 15 minutes a day anyway.
I just think one person has to go to the freaking office.
So
And
they're
what's
not
going on,
fighting in the
man?
kitchen or the bathroom,
Take
and one
turns.
person should go to the office. I
Take
agree. Or
turns.
both. Yeah, that's right.
One of you go to the office, the other one's,
I
two
do-
home
I-
offices. You know
I
how much
do-
more money that is?
I do know a couple friends of mine who were clients of mine years ago who kind of both work from home, can work from home, and they do exactly that. One goes to the office, one stays home. The next day, the other goes to the office, the other one stays home because they don't have a double office situation, and it is noisy. When you're if you're on the phone all day long, it's crazy, and we don't want them fighting in the kitchen or bathroom.
No, we do not.
Let's talk about neighborhoods. What neighborhoods
No bathroom fighting.
in this market at this time in 2025? Any particular neighborhoods of more interest than others in your world of buyers? World of buyers?
Pockets of neighborhoods.
Yep.
Pockets.
Good answer.
Yeah.
But what pockets and what neighborhoods? What comes to mind to me always is Brooklyn is still kind of on fire.
Yeah, but Brooklyn's bigger than Manhattan.
Yeah, but before COVID, or actually a few years before COVID when it really started, no one wanted to be in Brooklyn.
You know why?
And all of a sudden, it's
can
like the
tell you
hottest
why.
thing.
You didn't have Wi-Fi in the subways. You didn't have grocery. What we had to do when I lived in
grocery.
you had bodegas, but you didn't have
bodega.
how many Whole Foods did you have in Brooklyn?
No.
At all.
No.
How many large box grocery stores did you have?
Whole Foods is going downhill,
Probably.
let me tell
Little
you.
Becky from Ohio needs big box grocery stores. They do not understand bodega. So when you
I
look
love
at
bodega.
Give me my bodega any day.
Any day.
and
I don't need to
am-
go through the whole store.
I
Too much.
want a
I
bodega.
come out with too much
much.
crap.
Too much.
I just want
it's
direct.
overkill. But I hear
Give me
your
a couple
point.
convenience.
just have the same refrigerator as me. It's just hot sauce. It's perfect.
Hot sauce.
Nothing else.
You don't need to refrigerate hot sauce.
Yeah, but it's better.
Oh.
It's cold.
Something has to tell my refrigerator that. So the
Sriracha. Okay, I'm going to call it out. There you go.
It works. So
It works.
Brooklyn didn't have Wi-Fi in the subways, so we always had to stand on top of the street.
Well, that's very true.
Finish your text messages. Then, as soon as you hear the train, you run downstairs, jump on the train, and hope that you made it. And then, if the train got stuck, because nobody cared about Brooklyn, if the train got stuck
cared
underground,
about
you had no cell service, nothing. You couldn't tell your boss that you were running late. That fear factor in a worker of, oh my God, I'm going to be late for a meeting. I can't tell anybody. You go through that one time and you will never want to go through that again. So as soon as you added the ability to communicate underground, it started making people think,
When did that happen?
oh, so all subways essentially had Wi-Fi by
was waiting for you to ask that
2019.
2019. All right, so 6 years
then
ago. Okay.
in like 2022, you also had the countdown clock and the timer for when your train was going to come in almost all the subways. And I might be wrong on that,
no.
but it's sometime around there. Then in 2020 is when the L train started working again because they fixed that, and that was running by May of 2020,
That was
and
out
they
for a
didn't
long
tell
time.
anybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that anticipation started in 2018, which then launched everybody moving to Brooklyn Heights and Cobble Hill from Williamsburg, the young people, the youths. And now it's also, so that drove those. And now we're seeing Brooklyn really evolve. We're seeing places like Bed-Stuy really grow up, but there's pockets of Bed-Stuy that are growing
Crown Heights,
up.
all of them.
Crown Heights, Prospect Lefferts Gardens is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Getting people to move there is still challenging.
No, I get it.
Ditmas Park.
That's where I grew up, Dimas Park.
Yeah, really?
I love
Yeah,
Ditmas Park.
yeah.
Like big Victorian
Yes.
house.
But let me ask you a question. So, I mean, I agree with that. But, you know, again, neighborhoods come and go. When I first moved to the city 30 years ago, Upper East Side, it was like the place to be, whatever. And
They only had J.G. Mellon 30 years ago. That was it.
that's right. Well, that's right. You're exactly correct. Right around the corner from my apartment. But the bottom line is,
D'Agostino was hot.
Yeah.
well, but then it went out of fashion. The Upper East
The
Side went
lettuce can't
completely
stand
out
up.
of
It's
fashion.
just always like Romaine's always like this in D'Agostino.
Well, but I love D'Agostino. I still do. But it went out of fashion because the subway train system was not great. And I moved to the West Side where the train system was so much better. And I was working downtown at the time. So, you know, Wall Street back and forth, it was so much easier. All of a sudden, we talk about neighborhoods that are trending. All of a sudden, you know, the Upper East Side is way back again. And that's because of the Q line, the 2nd Avenue subway that has brought more people conveniently back to the Upper East Side. Upper West
Do
is
you
still.
feel that way?
I do feel that way, and I'll tell you why. I was selling a new development project.
Big time.
Big time, yes.
And how much time are we talking about? Like how recently?
Well, 2nd Avenue train came.
no, I'm not talking second.
The
How
Q
recently?
train opened up in 2019.
Right.
However, in Q1 of 2020 through maybe Q3, don't quote me on the Qs because I can't remember
Well,
any
there's
of them.
also COVID in the middle of all that.
Right.
Yeah.
So during that time, because I did a deal on 79th Street and 2nd Avenue, you still had the sideway blocked and the construction equipment on 2nd Avenue. That all got removed some point during the end of 2020 or middle of 2020.
That's a good memory, Daniel.
So
You're
then
right. You're
people
absolutely correct.
had to remember, and as they move back, say 2024, because they traveled for 4 years, they figured out other things, and now they're like, all right, I do want to be in New York. I do want a family here. I do want to actually have some roots, not just Balenciagas that look like lawn mowing shoes. I actually don't want to mow a lawn. So when they decided that they wanted to have these things and they didn't want the yard, they're like, all right, let me do New York. Now you have restaurants in Upper East Side. It's going to be one of the best neighborhoods
I disagree.
But here, all right, one last point. Here's the thing, too,
Go ahead.
that I've noticed when I was selling the Claire on 61st and 2nd Avenue. I used to think, who the hell wants to live at the mouth of the tunnel? 61st and 2nd Avenue, you're out of your mind. I lived on the Upper East Side on 72nd
There's
Street.
a great
loved it.
tennis bubble near there.
Yep.
I
But
know
it's
that.
red clay, so you know that's going to get all over your apartment. It's
getting
kind of like
all
glitter.
over
It's
everything.
terrible.
But the point
She's
is,
at the front
people started coming back because of that 2nd Avenue train, and more restaurants came in. But we also have to take into consideration and not forget the private schools. The amount of private schools on the Upper East Side is
That's valid.
It's very
That's
valid.
valid.
It's very amazing. So people were really, I remember, buyers telling me, we really want to live on the Upper East Side, Vince, but, the transportation, our kids need to go to school there, but my husband, my wife, but to get to and from work was a little difficult. Now they're running back because, and I've seen it, in the last few years, because of that train system, because they can put their kids in the private schools that they want to go to. You think it's
Different.
different. Tell me
It
why.
was less of an impact, in my opinion, in my observation. I say not just an opinion, but I knew people, actually an assistant when I started 22 years ago. She bought a place around 2nd Avenue knowing that 2nd Avenue subway was going to come out.
Yeah, they also used that
yeah.
sales pitch in Mad Men.
Everybody
Yes.
was trying to get up and down. And then when it came out, and my father was the architect for that
Nice.
that line. So I just kind of thought it's a brilliant idea.
It's a brilliant idea.
To buy up and down over that's going to change everything.
Of course.
And I was shocked that the prices did not go to a level that I thought they would. I really thought the West Side was a little bit more popular throughout because you had less distance from a train. I always thought that Lex line, the 5 and the 6, was going to
awful.
be like getting there from First Avenue or York was a reason why First Avenue and York weren't getting the prices. But I sold something, around York, and I was shocked at how much you got over there for value. Tremendous value.
So much
and it's
value.
not that far from the subway.
It's
so
not.
why? I have another theory. And Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Wait, my theory
yours.
is and I'm a West Sider, so I'm biased. Let's start with that.
I was going to say, I'm
It's
a West
fair.
Sider. I moved to the West Side 20 years ago, and I ain't leaving.
Me too.
Love it.
Me too. I love it. I love it. I was going to Columbia for my master's. I moved there just because I wanted to be the subway line to get to
Absolutely.
school,
Right.
and I haven't left.
Right.
But for me, it was proximity to Central Park. You can be closer to Central Park on the West Side without having multiples of your purchase price in your bank account liquid. You can get into the neighborhood between Central Park West and Columbus, or Central Park West and Amsterdam, so 1 to 2 blocks off of Central Park, and be somebody that didn't come from estate level wealth. Okay, and that's
I'm also a half a block
real.
from Riverside Park, and I have
And that's the other thing.
the balance of both parks.
On the other side, you have another park. So when you go to the east side and you get to the river, the East River,
You can
right?
see the West Side bigots over
Yeah.
here. It's
Terrible,
really-
terrible.
I mean, I'm a
But you
voyeur, so
don't-
I watch all the neighborhoods.
I
There's
know.
a promenade, right? Then there's the FDR, but there's not that much to do. The West Side has blown up and down the Hudson. And if you go to Riverside Park and you want to bike,
Love.
or even just get on the West Side Highway, there's one thing after another. City Winery, there's City Island. I mean, there's the trapeze. I mean, the activities, the
But isn't that in
restaurants, the
Chelsea
concerts.
and like Tribeca?
Yeah, it's the
And you
West
gotta go,
Side.
like,
You
all the
go
way
up
down
and
there?
down in
You
10
go up
minutes.
and down.
You gotta like 10
in
minutes.
10 minutes. On the east side, you got to come across. We are opening up and down that Hudson River.
I will,
it's
I will-
unbelievable.
I will say one thing though about the East Side, and every time I say this, I kind of like, ugh. But there are so many more and so many better restaurants.
I
on the
was
East Side.
going to agree with you.
Yeah. So in the,
I mean,
I hate saying it, 'cause I
hate
hate
saying
it.
but I have to say that for the Upper
I
East
hate
Side,
it.
it is so.
I feel bad
much-
because
I do
more
too.
mom and pop restaurants on the west side.
I know.
And there's more
Yeah,
But I
mean,
was-
I have my favorites on the West Side, but there are so many more choices and so much better.
yeah,
Daniel, you're not agreeing.
Because in the Upper West Side is like
You're a
the
downtowner, I know, but
I mean, I go everywhere. I live downtown because I do business. Like today, I'm here. Now I go to a listing pitch on Central Park West.
know.
Then I go to Chelsea. Then I go to Gramercy. Then I go to downtown Brooklyn. And then I actually go back to the Upper West. That's my day to day. So I make sure that I know every single neighborhood and what is the energy of the neighborhood? What is
yeah.
the energy
Well,
of the
that
person?
changes too. Yeah.
How is their life going to be? So the Upper West is like the perfect real estate market because for every one bedroom that comes up, you're competing against the next door neighbor who might buy you, as well as anybody else who might also buy that one bedroom across every single age demographic. So it controls its inventory because you lose a one bedroom as a combination, you lose a two bedroom, you gain a three, and then another one bed comes up that then stays a one bed. It has a very finite pocket of inventory, which is very interesting. So the prices in the Upper West stay very, very stable. But you only have 15 good restaurants. And then they all have a
He's
weight.
putting a number on it.
You have
15.
the
I
one
wouldn't- I don't even know that it's
promenade
15.
on
Okay.
Columbus. All right, it might be 10.
Well, whatever.
But you can walk down the street and you'll see who's the boss just hanging out. Like it's a very interesting environment. Whereas the Upper East, the way that we've seen it happen is that now Park Avenue is a deal, but I don't really understand Park. I didn't grow up here. I'm from Ohio.
Well, if you want to live on
one
Park
day,
Avenue, I mean, it's,
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I just don't get it.
If you need to go to the doctor, there's one every other block.
correct.
Yeah, exactly. And they all have better hair plugs than the next guy. So when you go to it's true. When you go east
Maybe I should
of
consider that.
Second and Third, we'll take Turkish Airlines together.
Okay,
It'll be
good.
great.
Perfect.
So when you go east of Second, that's where all the new restaurants are coming up. You have big trees, and people will look. The challenge that the Upper East Side has
Did you
is
say
that
big trees?
yes, you will notice there is a trend like 73rd
Excuse me?
Street.
You took the words out of my mouth. Okay, I'm listening.
So 73rd Street between 2nd and 3rd, and you can chart this. The blocks that have bigger trees on the blocks sell for more money. The Upper East Side,
you should see your face.
I'm sorry.
You should
Upper
see your
West
face.
Side. Oh, you can chart this. Upper West Side, most blocks all have big trees. You have low buildings. People feel relaxed.
Okay.
It feels a lot calmer in the Upper West. Upper East, you have a lot more pockets that have too many tall buildings and too many blocks that don't have trees. So it doesn't make people feel emotionally relaxed like it's their home.
You know what else? Too many hospitals. Hospitals on the Upper East Side, Lenox Hill, Sinai,
Ambulances.
Cornell, ambulances. Now, outpatient, destinations are being built,
Well,
There's a
true.
location, was it like 77th and 2nd? They're going to have a huge outpatient. It was fought over in the, it's great when you need to go to the doctor. But you don't want to live with all these ambulances and sirens.
Listen,
you
agree.
think trees are peace, trees are quiet. That's
when we
what
live
they
downtown,
denote.
we're used to
That's
the
going to be my
sirens.
teaser.
But when
trees,
you
because
live
your
downtown,
face
you're
with
used to
that was
sirens.
Magnificent.
Do you know?
You're used to it. You see them. You
I
hear
read
them.
an article yesterday, New York Magazine. The beechwood trees that are in Prospect Park have been dying, and they don't know what to do. There's
I love
tons of
beechwood
them.
tree. Yeah.
Yeah, the beechwood trees are
Wow.
gorgeous.
I love them.
But this has been going on for years.
It's not the lanternflies. They didn't start this.
No. There's some like beech leaf disease. I printed I haven't had time to read it, but I want the solution. I have beechwood trees at my house in Southampton.
Okay.
I mean, they're also blocking my neighbor. I mean, it's devastation to see this.
We had them
But
growing up in my
you don't buy on a block with those trees could die.
Yeah, you got to start an uproar. Make one Instagram post.
Listen,
Save the beechwood
it's
trees. The trees are
It's
beaching.
serious. It's
Yeah.
very serious stuff.
Okay, last question. This year, okay, what's trending more? Condos, co-ops, townhouses, all of the above?
Not
Depends on the
townhouses.
neighborhood.
Not townhouses.
We thought townhouses were going to be so hot after COVID because no elevators,
Outdoor space.
I feel like townhouses are a great opportunity now.
Phenomenal opportunity.
Opportunity
I
to buy.
agree.
Like they
I
are
agree with
a
that.
phenomenal opportunity. I think that everybody that buys new construction in the Upper East, depending on the project and the proportions, when it's no longer new, they're going to be hurt.
Yeah.
Brooklyn,
Gets old.
always townhouse. If you can do a multifamily, like I'm pitching
And they're
people
not
instead
that-
of buying that
that
loft
cheaper
in
than New York
Tribeca,
anymore.
buy a 2 or a 3
See the new
family.
the new form that just came out July 1st about the property disclosure on 1 to 4 family. Sellers really have to disclose everything.
Everything.
Yep.
Everything. I think it's brilliant, although it invites lawsuits.
So townhouses are a great opportunity. What about condos and co-ops? What are you selling more of? I tend to sell more condos. I mean, just because, but that doesn't mean that the co-op market isn't strong enough.
Buyers
Isn't
need to
strong.
realize you're not going to rent the apartment anyway. Like it's not going to
right,
happen.
right.
If you're going to buy a condo, you need to have 50 to 60% equity just to break even. Buy a really smart buy. Get a great layout with all of the characteristics, the light, the view,
In what, a
anything else
co-op?
in a co-op.
Okay.
Buy all of that because it will always sell well. But be picky about
But what
that.
about qualifying to pass the board? That's always the biggest, stickiest problem. I agree with you. I think you get a better deal. I think, you're saving on real estate taxes, whatever. But there's that infamous board that needs to.
Yeah, I think there are people that do qualify.
Yeah.
But don't want to go through the intrusiveness of the process,
Well, it's
or they have a
invasive. It's very
perception
invasive. Right.
that it's going to be more invasive. A lot of the
the
condo
perception.
resales have the same package.
Yep.
Right.
So they don't interview you, big deal. But they're taking the reference letters, they're taking your
But
financials.
They're still doing it all.
Everybody is doing the same thing. I think condos are resale condos, maybe a little less busy because we've lost a lot of our out-of-town market, our international market, right? And those people are definitely coming to they want to buy in LLCs, they want to buy in a trust.
Yep.
Now, our local market is happy with co-ops. I mean, a lot of the pre-wars are co-ops. We don't have a whole lot of great pre-war condos.
I love pre-war. I'm a pre-war bigot. I say it on this program.
High ceilings,
beams.
windows.
Yes.
You
Just
want to live in New
generous
York.
proportions. They have a different feel.
Yeah.
Something was made differently with actual pride.
Correct.
Versus just throwing up these really thin walls.
Yeah.
But you can do that. You just have to decorate it.
And they're built
really,
to last.
really
They
well.
last.
30 seconds left. Rental market. Hot. Agree?
Who could
yeah.
dispute that?
Incredible. I mean, I just did a very large size rental the other day, and it was like, boom. I saw it, loved it, wanted it, done.
Done.
I'm like, okay, great.
Well, you have to make a choice. You've got to be prepared. And
Well,
you
everything
have
is
to be
moving so
prepared, like
quickly
it's
on
moving
that
fast.
side of the fence that I told this guy, you got to decide today.
Yep.
It is
Where
what
do you
it is.
market your rentals?
I was representing the tenant, so it was somebody else's listing. But I work in a condo building predominantly that I sold from floor plans. So whenever I get a rental listing, it's usually in that building. Anyway, we'll be right back with my thoughts for the week. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my thoughts for this week. So, today my close is not about real estate, but a personal lesson for all of us. I teach many classes in real estate school, but there isn't one class where I don't discuss this. The quote, "Life is change. Change is optional, so choose wisely." It's by Karen Kaiser Clark. It serves as a powerful reminder of the constant evolution inherent in all of our lives. While change is inevitable, shaped by time, technology, relationships, and personal growth, how we respond to that change is entirely up to us. The optional aspect doesn't mean we can avoid change altogether, but rather that we have agency in how we adapt, resist, or embrace it. Choosing wisely means being mindful, intentional, and strategic in our decisions, understanding that each choice can either move us forward or hold us back. Ultimately, the quote invites us to take ownership of our lives and be thoughtful about the changes we welcome or reject. Air Supply used to sing a song, "Making love out of nothing at all." I say, change it to making something out of nothing at all and always be memorable. I know that song got you guys. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Substack, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And Vince Rocco says today, the world feels loud right now. The news, the markets, the uncertainty, it's all moving way too quick. Stay calm, stay classy, and always be memorable. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.